Hey, good to see you. I'm glad you're here. You want to play some Story of Seasons? I picked one up on the Nintendo eShop the other day. It was on sale for a pretty good price, and I'd like to just play that and explore that and take a look at what the game is from a developer's perspective. I've never taken a look at one of these games as a developer, but I did grow up playing Harvest Moon. Now, after a little confused, the original team that developed the Harvest Moon series, they moved on to create their own games, which is Story of Seasons. And the Harvest Moon that we see these days is an actual skin suit. It's not made by the actual people that created Harvest Moon. So Harvest Moon these days is a skin suit, and Story of Seasons is the real Harvest Moon. I know it's really confusing. And then Rune Factory is like Harvest Moon, except it has combat and RPG elements and some fantasy elements. But I much prefer Story of Seasons. I like the ideas that are present in Rune Factory, but I find the story is very slow, and it kind of gets in the way of I just want to catch some monsters and do some cool farming stuff. So we'll take a look at Story of Seasons on the Switch. I'll be using this horrendous Barbie controller that I picked up for like 15 bucks on the internet. All right, let's take a look. Okay, let's go ahead and boot this bad boy right on up. If you guys want me to discuss Rune Factory or Danganronpa or other stuff on the channel here, you can go ahead and let me know. Let's go ahead and boot this up. So again, Harvest Moon is a skin suit series. It's not the real Harvest Moon. Story of Seasons is the real Harvest Moon. I would like to discuss Harvest Moon at some point, but I want to be very careful to not make it seem like some sort of angry hate content. But I very much am disappointed with the skin suit Harvest Moon. In terms of the conceptual and technical implementation of the game, it is completely and utterly incompetent, and it's very disappointing. It's gross to me that they're using Harvest Moon as a lazy cash grab, is what I see. But Story of Seasons, this is the real Harvest Moon. I grew up playing Harvest Moon on the Super Nintendo and Game Boy Color, and I was a huge fan of that. I usually take a couple months out of the year and I step away from my development work entirely. I don't use computers, and I'll just go do ranch hand work. I'll go to California and just spend time in the country and the gold rush areas there, and I'll just do ranch hand work and be close to the land. I get to work with my hands and do work outside, and you get sick of staring at computers all day long. And while I love making games, and that's my passion, writing stories and creating art, creating music, and creating adventures for people, I hate staring at a computer all day long, but that's what it takes to develop video games. And I get to balance that out by just taking a month or two out of the year and only doing ranch hand work. So it's only natural that something like Story of Seasons, really appeals to me. I don't need tutorials, man. I know how to harvest moons all day long. Okay, yeah, that's fine. So I think it was another situation of my grandpa died, and I'm gonna go take care of his farm. I think this is the area in which I grew. Ooh, yeah. Oh, this is animals. Okay. So I've only just started this. I tried to skip past all the tutorials, but it looks like there's a little bit of tutorialing still. I'm just gonna go ahead and, yeah, I like that. I don't have to push any extra buttons to run. If I tilt the stick a little bit, what do we get here? Okay, yeah, that's normal. It's not truly velocity based. I think there's two stages to running. We'll see that. Yes, I know how to do crops, baby. Okay, hold on. Oh, it may. It is velocity based. Very nice until it reaches the threshold, and then once you're past the threshold, then it's just the running. Up until that point, it is velocity based. Interesting technical implementation on that. Oh, real-time lighting and shadows. We have low-resolution shadows. Oh, wow, that is delightful. Yeah. I haven't played a Story of Seasons game in a long while. What's this one called again? What's this one? A Story of Seasons: A Wonderful Life. I honestly wasn't sure which one I was supposed to get. There was quite a few on sale in the shop. I'm not sure if they're... No, there isn't really any use of subsurface scattering, which is a great visual technique. It's how we express light entering an object through one side, the light bouncing around the mass of the object, and then coming out the other side, it has a glow and an illumination to it. If you take a look at Digimon Story Time Strangers, they make great use of subsurface scattering. Basically everything uses it, but that's how they make their curtains. It looks like lights shining through the other side. It makes characters look alive, even though it's not realistic for subsurface scattering to be applied to the human body so strongly as it is in Digimon Story Time Stranger. Even if it's not realistic, it looks fantastic, and it makes it look like light is reflecting and shining off the environment even when it's not. So it's used very intelligently in that game. Let's see, this is interesting. The shadows are updated in maybe it's not every frame. It's kind of similar to Scarlet and Violet, except this looks way better. Perhaps Scarlet and Violet, yeah, use a similar technique where oh, you know what? It's the position of the light. It is. The position of the light is being modified. It's changing, you know, every few frames, but it's not smoothly gradual, and so it results in some stuttering. But in this case, it's not that jarring. In the case of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, it's quite jarring. Oh, how now? This... Oh, yes, this is interesting. Have a look at the shadows being cast on this side of the fence. That is interesting. Because realistically, we should not see the shadows from that tree. We should not see them being cast on this side of the fence. But it looks good. It is expressing something. Now, why is that? Is it the exact... It may be what we see on the other side in terms of shadows. We see it on this side of the fence. Now, that is not realistic. That should not really be happening, but it looks good. It adds a sense of dynamic contrast to the environment, and if we didn't have that, it would actually look quite plain. I'm going to see if my character... Oh! Look, the character can influence that as well. So that's just a universal part of the lighting engine. Now, let's see. What else does that apply to? This is fascinating. So the shader for this tree geometry, that has a screen door transparency. I only see one level. Hold on. That's fully visible. I'd have to go frame by frame, but I think... Ooh, it's hard to tell. Really, it's whether there's a transition, a smooth fade to it or not, is a little hard to tell. I think when you're leaving, there is a transition where it fades in. When you are occluded by the object here, when the object is between you and the camera to prevent the geometry of blocking the view of the character, it looks like it snaps to that screen door, but once you leave, there is a transitionary phase. Even if it's very fast, it transitions back to full opacity. So, wow, I want to walk up this. Oh, come on, let me walk up that, man. What do I got in the bag? What's in the bag? All right. I don't know, let me just get myself out of the way here for a second. Oh, okay. Ooh, I got a little camera. I forgot about that. All right. I'm back. This is, whoa, interesting technical implementation on that. Let's see, but I believe, let's take a look at the fence. I have a strong feeling the fence does not turn slightly transparent because it has a different shader. The shader is basically a part of the program that tells the game engine how a piece of geometry should be rendered. But generally we don't have one shader that does absolutely everything. We write shaders to specialize in a particular effect. So this shader specializes in a sense of subsurface scattering because shadows are showing through the other side. The tree does not seem to have that kind of subsurface scattering. The shader for this is really designed to turn transparent. Let's go ahead and see what happens with other pieces of geometry as well. Let's see. Those don't go invisible. So they determine really only the larger stuff like the trees. What about this fence line here? Okay, this does not go invisible. I think it would be pretty distracting if those turned invisible. This looks, I really like the way this game looks. I'm quite pleased with this. This is the kind of game that I will happily spend time playing because I enjoy these things. Again, I really enjoy doing ranch handwork and farm work and it's nice to spend time out in the fresh air. I grew up in the country, and I like spending time out in the mountains. And I don't. Again, I really dislike sitting at a computer desk all day. I don't like being inside. I'd like to have a workstation outside in the fresh air. Hmm. Okay, let's see. I think these trees. I think those. Oh yeah, the logs here. That's using normal mapping, I believe. But I'm not seeing it change. Interesting. I'm not seeing the... If that was real-time normal mapping, you would see it changing with the lighting as well. I'm not seeing it change, so I think that's baked. Fascinating. Really fascinating. I really like all the environmental detail here. We use splat maps. A splat map is basically a texture with a color painted on to tell the game this is where certain textures will be visible. They use splat maps to determine, this is where we'll have the ground be dirt. This is where it'll be grass. But it takes a lot of Oh, hello. I have an event going on here. Maybe we'll just skip this, I think. Watching people gab on and on these events is a little boring. I'll skip it. I'm going to discuss environmental design a little bit here. The developers here know that they have a limited space to work with. You can only have so much visible. What they've done is they've used elevation, and elevation is a form of breaking the line. Breaking the line is an artistic design philosophy, an artistic concept where the most boring thing visually is just a straight line, and you've got to find a way to break that, not just in terms of composition, but in terms of color dynamic and tonality. And these developers, to me, this tells me that they understand that concept, whether or not they call it breaking the line or refer to it as some other concept. It's important that we have a way to discuss these topics and share these ideas. So I coined the term breaking the line to be able to explain this to people. And what I see here is a pretty strong understanding of that. In terms of verticality, for example, we can compare it to other games, and I'm not here to make fun of or to just, bag on another game or development studio. But for example, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet was quite bad at breaking the line in terms of verticality. The way that they did it was not pleasant to look at. Whereas this, they have used trees. Let's see how these developers have broken the line here. They are using foliage here, this shrubbery, and they have used those pink trees, which kind of look like cherry blossoms, and they have trees of varying heights. They have these mounds here in the terrain. Even though it doesn't seem like a huge amount, they've broken the lines with these. So not only does it keep increasing in terms of elevation, moving from one direction to another, that subconsciously gives people a sense of directional flow. We know that moving up one direction will bring us one way, moving towards another direction will bring us away from a particular direction. So there is directional flow here. It is not arbitrary. As we move downhill overall, we see that we get closer to the water, which is in general how water shapes the land. So this is decent consideration for how water would affect the real world. We can see the level of detail changing for the trees there, and they're using a fade-in transition. Now, if they're using Speed Tree, a number of engines have access to Speed Tree. That is something that is available readily, but it's also something that has some performance cost when you have that sort of fade-in transition, but it is nice to have that there. And something I noticed on the grass here, so have a look. It looks like you can see the shadows through the other side. See how I'm casting it? And you technically shouldn't be able to see that. If you use true subsurface scattering, that is an effect that you can have, but you can also fake that as well by having your normals, basically mirror what it sees on the other side. You can sort of fake subsurface scattering, and it costs nothing. That doesn't have any impact on the performance cost. You actually can see the shadows on the trees as well. That's how I faked subsurface scattering shadows on foliage in some of my games, is it sort of copies the normal information from the other side of the polygons. So you can fake it for free. True subsurface scattering does have a pretty heavy performance cost, and so you need to consider all those things. We are breaking the line in terms of the composition of the ground here by painting these sort of clover looking pieces of foliage. So they don't just have this plain grass here. This is stuff that would all require hand painting. You have to do this work. You can have generators randomly just poop stuff out for you. And you know what? If you're filling out areas that are square kilometers wide or square miles wide, you can use those tools, but when it comes to areas where you have the player spending a lot of time in those areas, you really, really, really need to pay closer attention. You should be doing the work by hand if it is an area that the player will be traversing quite often. We aren't using, whoa, what is that Tesla coil over there? That's violent looking. Oh, some sort of alchemy magic. So they're just using smooth, a fade, a smooth gradient between these flat maps. A more modern, I say modern, was probably like 10, 12 years old, is to use height maps. And height maps let you have a more sharp and defined transition between the terrain layers. And the next time we play a game that has it, I'll point that out. I've noticed that in a few games as well. The shadow distance, you can see it being faded out, but it is quite smooth when it comes to the gradient fade out, but it is quite close to the camera. I would like to see that extended, but I'm sure they've done that for performance implications. Shadows are a little bit costly when it comes to rendering, so they have to make concessions. They have to make performance considerations where possible. It is fascinating to me how similar this is to Scarlet and Violet, yet to me this looks significantly more coherent. And this looks a lot better to me than Scarlet and Violet. Scarlet and Violet tried to lean pretty far into using physically based rendering for some of its shaders, and it ended up causing a tonal clash. And there's so much less there's far less consistency and cohesion when it comes to Scarlet and Violet. And I would like to see the Pokemon games do a lot better. I would like it if they look like Ni no Kuni. This is the eternal bane of developers, the camera clipping into the terrain. The only reason I can see this happening is if the collider, so the geometry that we have in the environments, they're not the same thing. They're not always the same thing as the collision data, because the geometry can be pretty high poly count. The higher your poly count is on your geometry, the much more expensive it is to process the collisions on. So what we do is we create collision data sometimes that is simpler than the actual geometry. This geometry that I'm looking at is actually quite simple. So, oh, I know what's going wrong here. This wall is too thin. And so the camera can actually enter a position where oh, hold on. It doesn't calculate collision data with this wall at all. Interesting. The camera is not calculating collisions with the wall, and we're able to see through it. And this is, again, the eternal bane of developers. It's frustrating having to make sure that the camera does not go into the terrain. It's not a big deal when it comes to the fence like that, but let's go ahead and find a building. This game looks so delightful. I really like the time of day system. Wow. Ooh, I want to go in there. These games are full of I don't know, a sense of freedom and whimsy to them. I really enjoy just this go and live your life, and run a farm and see what you can do with your life, and enjoy being outside, enjoy the outdoors. See the collision data with the building. Let's see, is it really colliding with the building? Oh no, it's using transparency. So here's the thing, that the building has used transparency shader, screen door transparency, so that the camera won't change positional value. But there is for the box. So yes, there is actually some degree of collision with the camera. They've employed two methods here, but the camera is only allowed to get so close to the character. If the camera gets too close to the character, we can see inside of our character's geometry, and it is an unholy nightmare that looks terrifying. So there's a limit to how close the camera can get. So here they've employed collision checking, so the camera can only get so close to the character, but if the camera gets close to other geometry, let's go ahead and test that wall again. I believe that there's none at all. As I approach the wall, hold on, that's touching the floor. Yep. There is some. So there is collision data, but the problem is that the wall is too thin. And because the wall is so thin, then the collision check for the camera ends up on the other side. That's a nightmare. This is so hard. I know people are going to complain and say, oh, this is bad. It's really hard to manage that. That is not easy to do. Ooh, I found a secret. Neato. Very neat. I think my character wants to go to sleep at 9 p.m. Buddy, you're not sleeping at 9. It's too early for that. I spent the whole time running around, and I should have been sort of figuring out my farm here. I'm going to press L and see what happens. Okay, so I press up and down on the D-pad. I can access my tools there. Okay, let me see if this makes sense to me. I'm going to open my menu, and if I grab... Okay, I put that there. Oh, no, I can't. That's different. Okay. Pressing ZR moves the camera behind me. Oh, yay! I can have a horse and a dog, and I can call them with a whistle. Okay. Oh, look! I like these details. Characters walking around on their own. They're living their own life. You know, the first game that I noticed this in, that I saw for myself, was Majora's Mask. Real-time environmental lighting. Pokemon, it's not that hard. Oh no, this game this game technically and also artistically looks better than Pokemon games, even though the fidelity is significantly lower in this game, you know, like the fidelity on the trees and things like that. But fidelity is really quantity, it's not quality. Look how pleasant that real-time lighting is on the characters that comes off the lamp. Pokemon, it's not that hard. You just click a button, you tick a tick mark, but you have to decide to implement real-time lighting. This is so pleasant looking. Look at that. Now this light does not cast shadows. If it did, there would be in it a performance cost. Oh, you can see real-time light coming from the windows. Pokemon, it's not that hard, dude. Oh yeah, this is delightful. You just have to make the artistic decision to do it. Just do it. Let's stand under the light post here. I don't see shadows. I'd have to find a spot. I think the light source up there is too high up, but I can see the lighting on the terrain. They've done an excellent job. This is way better than it seems. This is actually far more interesting in terms of the composition of the use of lighting. Very, very competent use of terrain to build a composition that breaks the line, that is interesting. If we have a look around, I have a feeling that no matter where we stand in this game, where we look, where we turn around, the line will always be broken. And that is the mark of artists who know what they're doing, who understand visual communication, and who know how to make a scene look interesting. Let's go ahead and stand here. We'll run the test. Look around. Look how interesting this looks, this scene, this angle right here. The line that would normally exist between the water and the terrain is broken up by the foliage here, but not just the foliage. You see we have these bushes here. The line of the bushes and the ground is broken up by this sort of whatever this tall stuff is, and then the line that forms with the ground is broken up by this grass here. The color monotony that would be present from this grass is broken up by this these white little flowers on the ground, or the stones. There's stones and then there's little flowers. So actually, this is extremely absurdly well considered for a scene that is so simple. They have broken the line in terms of tonality, in terms of color dynamic, and in terms of composition. And you see they've broken up that line in the water as well, with the stone wall rising out of there. We have the trees coming up. Well done, Fantissimo. They've done a great job here. If I can figure out how to get my axe, I'll get an axe. Okay. Can I equip that? I just want to equip that, bro. Let me equip that. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. Oh, there. I press L. There we go. I'm gonna hoe ya. Hold on. How do I hoe folks? I'll figure it out. Anyway, that's all I'll discuss for today. Oh, I am so terribly, terribly delighted by this. This is really wonderful. They've done the technical work here is excellent. I know people will complain and say, "Oh, it looks simple. The graphics look bad." On a technical level, this is extremely well composed. From an artistic level, extremely well composed. Brilliant. I actually wasn't expecting to be so impressed, but I am very impressed. Oh, there is a degree. They would have used height maps to have a more sharp definition when it comes to the bricks. Really great technical implementation. Wonderful artwork. I really, really like the time of day system here. Real-time ambient lighting, real-time environmental light sources. It's not that hard Pokemon, and it's it doesn't take extra work. You just need to decide to let the light sources affect the characters and the environment. Anyway, this has been delightful. I'm going to figure out some gameplay now. I'm so glad that I got to take a look at this from an artistic standpoint and to share this with you. And if you're interested in me discussing this game or playing it further and discussing the gameplay mechanics of it, then please let me know. If not, I'll move on to other games because there's a lot of stuff that people have been asking me to take a look at. I hope you're well. Please take care of yourselves. All right. I'll see ya.